You're listening to Supervision with a Vision, where we discuss all things supervision. I'm your host, Sarah, professional counselor, marriage and family therapist, play therapist, eating disorder specialist, and cookie lover, with my co-host, Heather, marriage and family therapist, certified Together in Texas counselor, a Texas transplant from California, and outdoor adventurer. Hi, welcome to Supervision with a Vision. Today, Heather and I are talking about when it's time to break the rules. This week, we read How to Teach Kids to Break the Rules Intelligently, published in Psychology Today 2025. Heather, this article has 3 points. I kind of like the idea of breaking rules. I'm not a big rule person.
I'm not, no. I mean, no. I can't think of any that are like hard and fast.
Yeah. I can think even recently crossing the street with someone and they were like, oh, we're not on a crosswalk. And I went,
Okay.
When did that become such a hard and fast rule?
Right.
I mean, anyway, so the first point in the article is adaptive thinking enables innovation, meaning if we sometimes play around with the rules, we're encouraging or enabling innovation.
Sure. Because if you're at the point that you could cross a rule or break a rule, you have to be creative about how you're going to then either one, not get caught, or two, what's the purpose? Like, why would you need to break the rule?
Well, you and I were just talking about getting caught
Oh,
with clients, but when I think of this, I don't think about getting caught.
Right.
That I'm thinking adaptive thinking enables innovation, meaning if we always lived inside the box, then we don't think outside the box.
Sure.
So if there's not ever an opportunity or space or permission to go outside the box, then you're not going to. So then we're going to do the same thing over and over again.
Right. And then you really are like stuck within the confines of that. Like you will not continue to develop that creativity or that,
Yeah. Can you think of times where you were outside of the box as a counselor or a supervisor?
It's kind of funny because I feel like I'm more outside the box than I am inside the box. But I think a lot of people when they're doing supervision have like a very concrete like what their session looks like or what the things you're supposed to do in supervision check off. I have none of that.
Do you know people? I don't think I know anyone that does it that way. Do you know someone who has a list?
I know a couple that their supervision
they have like a formula,
like they're how they. Yeah, not for me at all. Can't do that.
I'm thinking about myself as a newer counselor in the positions that I held, that I don't know that I even always realized I was doing it, but the way I would facilitate or do things was just a little bit different.
Yes, I agree with that.
I was still in school, and I think actually it was like a practicum or internship site facilitated through the school. I was at a facility where the clients were not allowed to have anything. They couldn't have things on them. So meaning like they couldn't carry with them a pen.
Oh, so
or paper even.
Okay.
And me trying to think about, well, how can I facilitate a group if I want to do an activity?
Right. How am I?
What will work? And having to think outside the box. And I remember that the administrators of the program were like, we haven't done that before. And me not even realizing that what
it was a thing. Right.
The thing I was asking for was different.
Right.
Even the first job I had out of school, same thing. I just came in and I'm trying to do my best at the job and do well, work with the clients well. And not till later did I realize, oh, I'm kind of turning things on its ear a little bit.
Oh,
this is different. I didn't even know.
Yeah, it was not intentional.
Actually, I'd forgotten about this. I really appreciated the other staff that I worked with. They had a lot more seniority than I did, but I was the only counselor.
Ah, okay.
That one of the male techs that I would guess had 15 years on me already. He would, if I was leading a group of teenagers in group counseling, he would sit down in the circle within the group and interject.
Oh.
And it most often felt inappropriate.
Right. You're like, no, goodbye.
Like, he would interject and ask them follow-up questions, which wasn't terrible. At least they were kind of on topic. But he would also sometimes interject and shut down conversations that he thought were not, it wasn't on topic or appropriate or whatever. So at one point, and I thought I didn't know any better. I didn't know it had ever been any different. I pulled him aside and said, "Hey, could you sit here?" And had a chair for him in the room, but away far enough outside. Yeah. He was so angry.
Mm.
He waited until we were in a room with only other staff and let loose and was so angry.
Wow.
And I was still going, I don't know why you're yelling.
Yeah.
I don't what is
happened here?
And so he explained how this is the way we've always done it. And then I explained, this is what makes sense for counseling.
Right.
And we still were kind of like at a standstill. Yeah. But it was a time where I thought, I didn't know I was breaking the rules.
Right.
Until someone told me I was breaking the rules.
Right. I think it can happen so easily, especially in like clinic-based settings. I've worked with some supervisees before, and actually even reflecting back to my internship, when you're in a clinic, and especially somebody that's going to tell you what modality you will use for therapy or what you will, how you will do things. And I first remembered a situation I had. I was at a place where you were allowed zero contact with kids, like nothing. First of all, they probably should have taught me that in new hire information. That would have been a good rule to tell the new staff.
Yeah. But like what I'm saying,
right.
I don't know that they even knew it was new to you.
Right.
Right.
Like that was right.
That was how they did things. And so looking outside of that box would have been foreign to them.
Right. So we had a group of kids that was between the ages of 5 and 7, and they were doing some social skills work and some different things. And one in particular had a lot of frustration tolerance issues, and we had a good connection, but he really wanted a high five for his good days.
Oh.
And I was like, well, absolutely. Sure. Like, this works. Yeah. This is a great way to, and I had really not even, I had no concept that was like so far beyond, and that
so you just crossed a big line.
A huge line. And I like created a whole thing. And it went on for a couple weeks before anybody like reported it.
Oh.
And I was like, we're not going backwards now. I'm not going to take that away from him. He's making such progress. We've like increased his like all of our skills and all of our things like tenfold. So I think it can happen. I have an associate right now that works for a place that has a very structured, like you must, every session she has to pretty much like do these like 7 questions that are like interview style. Well, by the time she gets through that, she has 10 minutes left for.
Yeah. But wouldn't that be cool if and I love to help supervisees think these things through. Wouldn't it be cool if she could meet those requirements her way?
Yeah. We've spent
whatever
a lot
that
of time.
Looks like.
And I said, it does not need to look like your laptop open and furiously putting these things in. Yeah. Like that can be.
I know I can't remember what episode, but I know I've talked about this before. When I was putting myself through the master's in counseling that I have, I worked for a place where I was doing social work.
Okay.
And that there were certain requirements. It was a state funded program, so we had to meet those requirements. And if I remember right, for every client on my caseload, I had to have 3 touch points per month.
Okay.
And it could be a number of different things, but within those 3 touch points, there was this long list of and you couldn't do them all in a month, but at some point you needed to
get through
let's say 20 different things. And they might be things like related to health and safety or all different things, just ensuring that these people were getting what they needed, that their rights were protected. So the month of December, which means Christmas, and also finals because I was in school. So that month was going to be short. I needed to get things done really efficiently. And so my bright idea was that I would go to see everyone physically one time. That was one requirement, one touch point.
Right.
And that my other 2 touch points would be that I would mail everyone a Christmas card.
So second touch point. And in the Christmas card, write a little personal note and also ask them to get the envelope that I included in my Christmas card out, write me a note, and mail it back to me with the stamp that I included. Touch point number 3. And that in doing that, I saw them in person, which was a requirement, but my other 2 touch points hit on 2 other requirements, making sure that they could send and receive mail.
There you go. Done.
I thought that was so smart. I was like, I'm done for the whole month, basically in 2 weeks. That was the smartest idea I've ever had. And I remember that my boss she pulled me into her office and like is smirking at me, and she goes, "That was smart. Don't do that again.
Don't do it again.
Good idea."
Like, did it.
It worked pretty well, and I did pretty well on all my finals. So, but maybe that's the kind of thinking outside the box, that you can still meet all the requirements, hit all the targets, and maybe you put your own flair in there that makes it work for you.
Right.
And your clients.
Right. And betters your clients for their experience.
Okay. So the second point in the article is safe spaces and open-minded challenges allow for breaking the rules.
Okay.
So as a supervisor, how are you creating safe spaces, open-ended challenges that let them break some rules? Do you let them break rules with you, or do you just encourage them to break rules at their job?
I think I let them break rules with me because I think they know that they break rules with me.
Okay, so how are you creating safe spaces and open-ended challenges?
I think the safe spaces comes from having a, I don't know if I want to call it, like the relationship style I have with them is pretty flexible and open. For instance, like if they needed to switch up a date, even though they have a scheduled time with me because something else popped up, realistically, they don't need an excuse. Like if that time doesn't work, they know that. They can just call and say, Heather, today doesn't work. And as long as we fit it in, I'm really flexible in a lot of those kind of things. And so I think they learn pretty early on. It's about that. The safe spaces, I think, in supervision are about the actual relationship you have with them. That you might have to give correction, but if you do it in a way that's not punitive,
I think that I'm doing at least the safe space end of or half of that question, by acknowledging that I tried different things.
Sure. Yeah.
I think with clients, but also with supervisees, I find myself saying, like, there's an endless number of possibilities here.
Right. There's lots of answers to this.
Right. There's not only one answer. Right. So as we're thinking, okay, here's your client and here's the situation. What are some things that you might do? I actually used to really enjoy doing that with groups. Like, okay, if you're leading the teen group and the topic is body image, what are all the possible ideas and activities that you might help facilitate in a teen group focused on body image? We could come up with lots of things, and that they're not, it's just endless what you might come up with. But I think in doing that, I'll acknowledge times too where I did this and it didn't work that well.
Right. Or I didn't like it, or the group didn't like it. Yeah.
I think, again, with group activities, so I enjoy coming up with ideas. And then sometimes you use the idea and it's a dud.
Right.
Even one that you've done. I've done that before. Let me think. I've done coping skills charades.
Oh, yeah.
With lots and lots of
different ways. Yep.
And sometimes everybody gets really into it. And other times it's like, oh, this is painful.
Right. This is not moving.
No, no one's having fun and no one is getting the idea here. Right. This is not work. So sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. What about open-ended challenges? Do you think you do that?
Trying to think of that as we were talking about just the different places for safe space, but I think something for me that goes in line with an open-ended challenge is for it to be something that necessarily doesn't have, like, maybe like we're trying this and we'll just see what the outcome is, right? I have a supervisee right now who's toying with just like different scheduling and different things that look like the right balance for her. And like you said, there's 100 different ways and every therapist is different, whether you want to have 15 hours a week or you want to have 30 hours a week. I mean, everybody, and depending on what's going on in your life, it will shift and change. And so it's about having like the challenge of this time right now, does it work? Does it mean in 3 months it'll be the same?
Yeah, I'm thinking about, and I don't know until you said that, if I would have thought about this like an open-ended challenge, because I guess I wasn't in a supervisory role, but more a management role.
Sure.
That an eating disorder facility I was working at, the staff were kind of grumbling about the schedule.
Oh.
And my answer was, I don't know. What do you, I mean,
Yeah, what do you guys want to do?
Yeah, like why is it, explain why it's not working, and maybe it makes sense and we should change it.
Right.
And I think some of it was, maybe an example would be, if we had breakfast and then like 2 or 3 groups, snack, 1 or 2 groups, and
Mm-hmm.
lunch. If the whole morning was stacked with really tough topics,
Right.
that was hard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, sure. So if we're gonna do grief, trauma, and body image all before
lunch,
yeah, like, ugh.
yeah.
Sure, that makes sense to me. So what could we mix in there that would kind of, and not just mix in there because change up the topic, but maybe even we need to on purpose plan a group where we're gonna go for a nature walk,
right?
Like
get outside,
move
do
a little
something.
bit, do something,
right?
And I think similar. I think it was in the afternoon. The schedule had like lunch, 2 hours later a snack, 2 or 3 hours later dinner, and somewhere in the afternoon there was also a group focused on kitchen skills.
Oh,
and so then they were eating again, and I'm like, okay, fair. What if we made the group happen at snack time? Like we worked the snack into the group one day a week. Mm-hmm. So then, yes, they're eating at snack time, but there's also part of it. It's part of the activity, so it doesn't feel like. And working out those kinds of little bumps to, and it did feel like an open-ended challenge. Like, I'm open to ideas. What do you think would work better? Or even, okay, at what point in the morning does it start to drag because everybody's energy's drained?
Sure.
Okay, you feel it. I'm not there.
Right.
So let's interject something there that might change how the morning goes. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes in supervision, I think it really depends on my supervisee. That an open-ended challenge might be, okay, so we thought about it, you came up with some ideas, and now go try it out and come back and see how it goes.
Let me know.
That not every supervisee might be ready for that.
Yes, I think that's true. I think some supervisees can't handle that, like, push, like the okay, go try it out, like they're not ready for that. And then I also think some can take it too wild or too far. But I mean, if it works, it works.
So you're saying, if you said go for it, see you later, come back next week, tell me about it, there might be some people that are just stuck with they're kind of frozen with indecision. And others that might be overly confident and too ready and jump out there and do something. Have you had that ever happen where you're like, and too outside the box? Wow.
Maybe only once or twice. I can't really think of like concrete examples. The only one I can really come up with is when I really encouraged one of my supervisees with a teen boy he was with. I was like, oh, well, we have a basketball hoop in the parking lot. Like, go play some basketball if you feel like he needs some more movement. We like strategize some different things about, whatever. No, that was like way, way far. He took that to like too loose, too far, where, really not keeping the boundaries of like just playing a game where you're shooting a basketball to now we're like fully engrossed in a game. We have other people that are joining the game. It's just like, that's a little off the...
Yeah, that's a good example. Okay, the last point in the article, or that the article made, was smart rule breaking solves problems.
Sure.
So I guess different than your basketball example. What was it? Can you think of a time where thinking outside the box, breaking the rule in a smart way, either as a counselor or maybe a supervisee reported back to you that, yes, that solved the problem. That was great.
I think I've had... Again, it kind of goes back to a lot of clinic stuff where there's like a rigid idea of how this is supposed to go, and then just needing to mix it up. Or there's a place one of my supervisees was working at that they had a very structured, like, you meet with the kid 3 times and then you meet with the parent, and there's literally like documentation to like, this is how you do the program. And when you were talking with the parent, you were only supposed to talk about the improvements that you saw in the kid in this thing. And it was like, so like
limiting.
Limited, yeah. And I just really, knowing who this supervisee was and knowing what his caseload was, I was like, that's not going to be beneficial to the client or to my supervisee for learning to communicate in difficult times. And so he kind of just threw that out the window. Went for like, hey, this is what I'm seeing, and this is what's being, and dove into like what would be considered a normal parent consultation of like, here's some other areas, and kind of just
normal. You just said
I said normal,
right?
Yeah,
that for this clinic, not normal. Yeah,
for the rest of the world, maybe normal.
I don't know. I think that to me is something I've seen or heard recently is that the acknowledgement that parent consultation is maybe a weaker point in what a lot of the education that people get when working with kids. But so maybe there's not clear expectation about what consultation looks like.
Yeah.
Smart rule breaking makes me think of I had a couple of examples. Like, this is one, and this is, you said group practice, so I thought of this one as not a group practice example. A kid that I was working with, and one of his diagnoses was avoidant restrictive food intake disorder.
Okay.
And this is where the rule comes in. It's not like a agency rule.
Right.
We had a hierarchy of foods that he was interested in trying.
Okay.
That together we created.
Sure.
And they had to do with things that he was kind of moving from most comfortable to least comfortable, but foods that he maybe had some interest in trying, or sometimes it was that we were trying to create a better balance of different kinds of foods for him. So he mostly ate like crunchy, salty things. So moving him from that, but we broke from that. We broke from his hierarchy in a cool way because he kind of saw like he started gaining momentum a little bit and getting kind of into it and like, okay, I'm doing this.
I did this and now I want to keep going.
Yeah. He was getting confident. And so one time I asked him, what do you think we should do next week? And he said, I want to try cherries.
Oh.
Not crunchy or salty. And his reasoning was that there's a in the United States, we have a fast food place called Sonic, and that they make all different kinds of flavored drinks. And in a lot of them, they will put
a cherry on top.
Right. A cherry, but it's like...
It's totally a sugared cherry.
Yeah, it's totally like
candied.
Like, yes, candied, or more like dipped in syrup.
Yeah.
Like it's a syrupy, sweet, so not a fresh cherry. But that's what he wanted to try. He wanted to try a real cherry. So not crunchy, not salty. And I also thought to myself, the challenge would be the pit in the middle.
Right.
That also is not in a syrupy cherry. So I'm in my head, I'm like, oh, but that was part of it, that I made myself not follow the rule and go with the hierarchy. And I didn't stop him from doing something that I thought was like, oh, I don't know if that's going to go well. We tried it. We go through the whole process. We washed them. We looked at them. I explained that there's the pit in the middle and how to do it. And we had like a napkin, on the table. And he bit into it, and he was careful not to hurt his teeth by chomping too hard. And he chewed that thing up, and it became the most slobbery, blob of a mess. And I went, it's okay. It doesn't matter. It's okay if it makes a mess. That's why you have the napkin. And so he spit out the pit, and it was almost all the cherry, like on the pit, still stuck on there. And he looked up at me like so excited, like I did it.
Right, I did it. I ate a cherry.
I did it. And I was like, you did do it. That's so cool. He ate a handful more, which was also that's good for him. Right. And the more times he did it, the better he got at it. So then he's just not spitting out this slobbery mess on the napkin, but just the pit. And every time he was like, these are good. Okay. I like this. Right. And so I thought that was cool. So that day I walked away having learned a lesson. Absolutely. That I could have stopped him from trying that. But instead we tried it, and it was a total success. And he now has another thing that he knows he really likes.
Right. And that's a great jumping off point for,
for all the other things that he's willing to try. Yeah. So Heather and I would love to know how you leave room for your supervisees to break rules. And as always, we would love to hear any suggestions you have for future episodes. Thanks today for listening to Supervision with a Vision.
You've been listening to Supervision with a Vision. Head on over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Therapy Academy to join the conversation and get show notes. We'll be back next week with more Supervision with a Vision.